Discover hidden life-changing motivation. Wake up early for 30 minutes of amazing transformation. Jake never thought early mornings could carry such weight. Each day began under a canopy of gray, weighed down by the loss of his father, a decorated veteran whose stories once echoed through the halls of their small-town home. Jake, a rusted cog in the machine of blue-collar life, stared at the towering pile of bills on his kitchen table, feeling their pressure crush him. He thought of the young smiles of his children, whose laughter felt like a beacon of hope in the darkness. What could he do but keep punching the clock and hope for a way out of this pit? But one morning, before dawn cracked the sky, something shifted. Wrapped in the stillness, he felt a flicker, an idea. What if, he whispered to himself, I took just 30 minutes for me? The cool air brushed against his skin as he stepped onto his porch, the crispness filling his lungs. He closed his eyes and began to breathe deeply, letting the melody of silence wash over him. These brief moments of meditation stretched before him a sanctuary where he could confront the demons haunting his heart. His early morning routine became a lifeline. A few push-ups, a gentle stretch, a clarity of thought lifting his spirits higher with each dawn. It wasn't long before he noticed changes in himself. He stood a little taller, felt the weight lift off his shoulders. Hope blossomed as he found a quiet strength within that he never knew existed. But Jake's transformation didn't sit well with everyone. At the factory, as the machines roared to life, his boss, an arrogant man clad in designer suits, seemed to relish in Jake's struggle. Looky here, folks. The early bird gets the crumbs, his boss chuckled one day, throwing a condescending glance Jake's way. Those words struck deep, a reminder of the cruel divide between the haves and the have-nots. Yet, gradually, his co-workers began to see him differently. The whispers grew first in the break room, then in the parking lot. They noticed Jake's renewed vigor, his twinkling determination. Hope turned to indignation when the company announced a promotion. He dreamed of stepping into his father's shoes, but alas, it went to a privileged boy who'd never known struggle. Anger bubbled up within him, fueled by a sense of injustice that demanded to be heard. In that moment, Jake stood in the center of the factory floor, heart racing, blood pounding in his ears. He poured his soul out to his saddened colleagues, every word a lifeline that bound their shared experiences together, a voice for the voiceless. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Just as everything solidified for Jake, an unexpected shadow from his past emerged: his estranged brother. The memories of their torturous childhood and painful separation loomed heavily between them, but so did a thread of unspoken loyalty. As they faced one another, the chance for reconciliation stood before them like an open door, filled with both promise and fear. Would they find the healing they desperately needed, or would the past continue to entrap them? Jake's morning routine had ignited something profound within him, a fire that burned brighter with each sunrise. Standing on the precipice, he grasped the task ahead, not just reclaiming a legacy for his father, but forging his own. The weight of that knowledge settled heavily in the pit of his stomach. Would he truly have the strength to rise up, to challenge the very foundations of inequality that plagued his community? As dawn broke, Jake's fate lay in the balance, brimming with questions that demanded answers, waiting for him to seize his moment. Jake's heart raced as he faced his brother, Ryan. Years of silence and resentment wrapped around them like the fog that often clung to their small town. The last time they had seen each other, fists were flying and words were sharper than knives. Now, standing in front of one another, the weight of their shared history pressed heavily, yet possibility shimmered in the air like the dawn light breaking through. "Jake, it's been a long time," Ryan said softly, eyes downcast. The casual tone couldn't hide the tension that crackled between them. They had weathered too many storms, lived through too much pain, to pretend it was easy. "Yeah," Jake replied, forcing the word through a throat that felt suddenly tight. He studied the face of the man who once felt like a stranger. How many times had he wished for this moment, only to dread it? Each regrettable choice painted a picture of their childhood one he wasn't sure he wanted to revisit. "I heard about everything that happened at work," Ryan said, breaking the silence that enveloped them. "Your speech, it took guts." His voice was steady, and for a split second, Jake felt a flicker of brotherhood. "Thanks," Jake replied, putting his hands in his pockets to hide the tremor. "Things are rough, but I'm trying to change that." While he spoke, he fought to contain the bitterness that had grown over the years, an ugly weed in the garden of his heart. "Doesn't he feel like it to me?" Ryan smirked, a shadow of their old banter creeping back. But the smile didn't reach his eyes, and Jake saw the pain behind it. That raw truth reminded him of all the ways they had failed each other. "Don't start," Jake snapped, unable to hold back the anger that welled inside him. "You don't get to judge me after you walked out." "I walked out to protect myself." Ryan shot back, his voice rising. "Do you think it didn't hurt? Didn't you feel the same way?" The challenge in his brother's eyes evoked a flood of memories, long nights and heated arguments, the struggles they shared, and ultimately the choices that tore them apart. Something shifted in the air as they stood there, and for the first time, Jake felt a glimmer of understanding. "I was angry. I wanted us to fight together, not drift apart," he admitted. A weight lifted from his chest, exposing vulnerabilities he had tried desperately to hide. "What do we do now?" Ryan asked, the fight leaving his voice. "I'm just so tired of feeling this way." Jake took a step forward. "I don't know. But maybe we can try to fix it. Talk about the past. Maybe even face it together." As he spoke the words, hope flickered like a candle in the dark. Could they turn this bitterness into a bridge? Could they be stronger as brothers than they were alone? Ryan seemed to consider this, eyebrows furrowing slightly. "You really think we can?" A fire ignited in Jake's belly, the same kind that had pushed him to reclaim his mornings, to find his voice and inspire change among his coworkers. "If we don't try, we lose everything," he replied firmly. Suddenly, the factory walls felt more like a prison than a workplace. "Why don't we go for a walk? Keep talking," Jake suggested, glancing out toward the sun that was finally breaking free from the horizon. "Yeah, I'd like that," Ryan said, a breath of relief slipping through his lips. They stepped outside, shadows of their past trailing behind them. But the sun was rising anew, and with it came a chance to rewrite their story. As they walked, Jake's thoughts turned to the speech he had left unsaid at the factory. He had a voice, and together, maybe they could share it. Each step they took was a part of a bigger journey, not just to heal their brotherhood, but to ignite a collective change within their community. But the road was long, and just before they reached the end of the block, something caught Jake's eye. A group of workers was gathering, whispers flying like embers. What had he ignited? What was brewing in the hearts of his peers? Suddenly, Jake felt the weight of responsibility press on him again. As he turned to Ryan, a fire lit in his chest, not just a flame for himself, but for an entire community waiting to rise. "Let us go see what they're up to," Jake said, adrenaline surging through him. And in that moment, uncertainty took hold again. Could he really rally the troops, or would doubts shatter their fragile resolve? The answers loomed ahead, and with each step they took toward that crowd, the stakes grew higher. Jake and Ryan approached the group of workers with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The faces of their colleagues were illuminated, not by the morning sun, but by a shared frustration, a spark that had been brewing for too long. As they drew closer, Jake could hear murmurs and catch snippets of conversations that felt charged, electric. "This isn't right anymore, we need to make a change." Ryan's brow furrowed deeper as he observed the gathering. "What do they want?" he asked quietly, just above a whisper. "I don't know," Jake replied, his pulse quickening with each step. The weight of the moment felt monumental, almost like history was about to unfold before them. As they got near, a familiar face caught Jake's eye, Mark, one of the senior workers. Mark's hands were animated, waving as he spoke, his voice rising above the crowd. We can't keep letting them walk all over us. We deserve better pay, better conditions. The passion in his voice echoed the frustrations Jake had felt himself. In that moment, he realized that the desire for change was not just his own. The crowd was nodding along, murmurs of agreement flowing like waves in the ocean. Jake felt a swell of hope, matching the fire that burned within him. He locked eyes with Ryan, who looked equally alarmed and curious. They exchanged a glance, the kind that brothers often do, one of silent understanding. Maybe this is our chance, Jake encouraged, his voice steady as he took another step forward. Maybe we can channel this frustration into something real. Ryan's expression changed, a flicker of realization breaking through. You think so? Yeah, Jake nodded, sensing the atmosphere of determination around them. We could speak up, be the voice they need. Before Jake could hesitate, he stepped into the light, his presence commanding the attention of his fellow workers. Hey! Everyone! He shouted, the words escaping his lips like a boiling pot of water finally spilling over. The murmuring quieted, heads turning toward him. They were a sea of faces, some anxious, some hungry for change, all watching him in anticipation. Jake's heart thudded against his chest as he sank into the moment. I know things have been tough. I get it. We've all felt unheard, overlooked. He paused, taking a moment to absorb their expressions. But if we stand together, we can change that. A low chorus of approval rippled through the group, and Jake felt his confidence deepen. We're stronger together than we are apart. We deserve respect, decent treatment, and a voice in our workplace. Jake's eyes locked with Ryan's. His brother looked proud, a light of hope igniting where there had once been shadows of doubt. Ryan stepped forward, clenching his fists as he echoed Jake's sentiments. We can't just accept things as they are. We've got to fight for what we deserve. For our families. The crowd buzzed with energy now. A wave of enthusiasm washed over them, and Jake thought he could see the uniting of their shared struggles in the eyes of their peers. Would this spark be enough to ignite a fire? Let us organize a meeting, talk to management, Jake continued, feeling bolder with each word. Show them that we won't stand for anything less than what we deserve. But first, we need to know how many of us are willing to stand together. Who's with us? A roar erupted from the crowd. Hands were raised, voices cheering, and for the first time in years, Jake felt invigorated. He felt like he was leading a charge, not just for himself, but for everyone watching. As the noise swelled, Jake caught a glimpse of Ryan's smile, shining bright amidst the chaos. But in that moment of triumph, uncertainty danced at the edges of his mind. Could this newfound energy transform into actual change? Would they stand together when faced with the inevitable pushback? Just as Jake was basking in the surge of unity, a stern voice broke through, piercing the excitement. What is going on here? A security guard, arms crossed, stood at the edge of the crowd. The excitement faltered, and a chill swept through the group. Jake's heart sank. Was this the moment they were going to lose everything? The crowd was watching, and every pair of eyes turned toward him, awaiting his response. He could feel the pressure building, tension brewing like a storm on the horizon. Would he be able to rally them even in the face of authority? As he opened his mouth to speak, a million thoughts raced through his mind. Could he really be the leader they needed? Jake's mind raced, his heart pounding in his chest. The guard's imposing figure cut through the energy of the crowd like a knife. A wave of uncertainty washed over him. The exhilaration from moments before ebbed as fear crawled into the space they had created. What would he say? How could he maintain the momentum when faced with authority? He took a breath, grounding himself. We're just discussing our rights, Jake called out, channeling the fire he had felt moments ago. We want to talk about better working conditions for everyone. The guard shifted his weight, scanning the crowd. You know you need permission to gather like this. Keep it down or I'll have to clear you out. An anxious murmur rippled through the workers. Jake saw their faces go pale, uncertainty settling in again. They had rallied, but the confidence that had surged just moments ago now felt fragile. They were at a crossroads, and he couldn't let it slip away. Jake held his ground. The only thing that needs clearing out is the way we've been treated. This is our chance to speak up. His voice steadied, cutting through the doubt. We're tired of being ignored. Some workers nodded, emboldened by his words. A few started to chant, stand together. Fight together. It was infectious. Jake watched as the energy in the crowd shifted. If they could just hold on to this moment. You all need to quiet down or else. The guard barked, his face tight. But the crowd surged back, despite the threat. We want to be silenced. Ryan shouted, his voice rising above the din. Jake glanced at his brother, seeing the same determination reflected in his eyes. There was strength in numbers, and right now, they were a force. Are we going to let them scare us? Jake asked, rallying the crowd again. This is our time to be heard. If we stay silent, nothing will change. He gestured to the assembled workers, their eyes shining with hope and determination. Look around. We're fighting for all of us, for families, for lives. The roar of approval that followed felt like a wave crashing upon the shore. Jake could see it, a palpable change. The energy built again, and he found himself swept up in it. Everyone, listen. Jake called, his heart racing with urgency. We need a plan. A meeting to present our demands. We can't wait for change to happen. It's not going to come if we just stand here. Ryan stepped up beside him, his expression a mix of pride and fierce determination. This is not just about us. It's for the ones who can't speak up. We have a chance to show them we stand united. We deserve to be treated with respect. The crowd was electric, breaking free from the fear the guard elicited. Jake saw faces lit with belief, and he realized that they were tired of being overlooked. It was no longer just about him or Ryan, it was about everyone in that crowd. The guard shifted uncomfortably, clearly outnumbered now, but he stood his ground. You don't have the right to hold up a meeting without permission. Jake stepped forward, emboldened by the collective energy around him. We're not afraid of you. Every one of us deserves to be heard. The anxiety in the air began to dissipate, replaced by sheer determination. The crowd grew bolder, shouting their agreement, refusing to shrink in the face of authority. But in the back of his mind, Jake couldn't shake the thought of what would come next. If they pressed on, what would management do? Would they retaliate? As the cheers swelled, Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning, but so became the weight of expectation on him, on Ryan, and on all their shoulders. But then, a fleeting shadow loomed. Was it really enough to confront authority? The stakes had never been higher. Could they push for change without it costing them everything? Jake swallowed hard, ready to find out. Would this be their path to change, or would they fall back into silence? It was a pivotal moment, and now everything was at stake. Jake took a deep breath, knowing they had to confront whatever came next together. The guard's stance remained defiant, but the collective fire in the crowd began to shift the atmosphere. Jake's heart raced with the urgency of the moment. The workers, emboldened by their united voices, were ready to take this leap. They had stood in silence long enough, and now they craved change. Jake felt the pulse of the crowd resonate within him, a torrent of emotion surging through his veins. He looked at faces filled with a mix of fear and hope. The tension hung thick in the air, yet every shout, every chant, was a spark igniting the path forward. Listen up. Ryan shouted, his hands raised to focus the crowd's attention. We need to come together beyond just this moment. We can't just yell and hope someone notices. We need a strategy, a solid plan to make them listen. The workers murmured in agreement, the seeds of determination planted in their hearts. Jake felt a flicker of inspiration. You're right. We need to hold a meeting tonight. Let South gather in the park, where we can lay out what we want to say and how we'll deliver it. We have to be ready to stand firm. A wave of excitement rippled through the crowd. Jake glanced at Ryan, who nodded, clearly on the same wavelength. They had to act fast before their courage faltered. Tomorrow, Jake continued, voice rising to match the cadence of their heartbeat, we'll march to corporate and present a united front. As the crowd erupted into cheers, Jake felt a solidarity forming, the kind of connection that only comes when lives intertwine for a cause greater than oneself. They were not just a group of individuals anymore, they were a movement. Let us show them we care, Ryan added. For our families, for our friends. This isn't just our job, it's our lives. A chorus of agreement met them, echoing into the evening. The chant became rhythmic, one voice. One fight. The guard, now outnumbered and visibly rattled, retreated a step, eyeing the burgeoning crowd with wary consideration, but Jake knew they had only taken the first step. They now needed to ensure their voices would be heard clearly, not just regrouping but solidifying their resolve. Yet in the shadows of his own thoughts lurked a fear. Would they have the strength to face the higher-ups? What if the management decided to push back hard? Okay, guys, let us make a plan, Jake urged, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. We'll meet tonight at the park. Everyone who can make it, please do. We'll strategize and gather our thoughts. We need a message that's clear and powerful. With that, the crowd began to disperse, still bubbling with energy. As Jake walked toward the park with Ryan, the weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders. A mix of adrenaline and anxiety coursed through him. They were venturing into uncharted waters, standing at a precipice from which they could either leap or fall. What if they come after us for this? Ryan said as they walked, voice lowering. The excitement faded slightly at the prospect of backlash. You saw how they reacted today, Jake replied, confidence wavering but determined. They can't ignore us now. We have numbers, and there's strength in that. We just need to stay united. But doubts lingered in the back of his mind, a quicksand of fear threatening to pull him under. What would happen if they lost everything they had fought for? Could they really stand up to the might of the management? As darkness began to envelop the park, a sense of stillness settled over Jake. They had the momentum, but the challenges ahead felt daunting. Would they be able to harness the power of this moment and turn it into a lasting change, or would they fade back into silence, haunted by the fear of losing what they had? He took a deep breath, gearing up for the night ahead. More than a meeting, it felt like the dawn of a new beginning. If they could rally their strength and vision, maybe, just maybe, they could shift the direction of their lives for good. Jake knew they had to confront their fears head-on. Was he ready to lead them through the storm that loomed ahead? Would this radical leap be the start of something transformative, or a hard lesson in the cost of standing up for what was right? The park was alive with a soft rustling as Jake and Ryan stepped onto the grass, the twinkling stars overhead buzzing with anticipation. The night felt charged, like raw energy pulsing through the air, and in that moment, Jake could almost forget the uncertainties ahead. A handful of workers were already there, scattered across the park, their expressions a cocktail of eagerness and lingering apprehension. They greeted each other with quiet nods, as if sharing an unspoken understanding of what they were about to embark on. It felt big. It felt necessary. Thanks for coming, everyone, Jake said, his voice cutting through the dim light. Tonight, we need to lay everything on the table. This is our chance to talk strategy. He felt a swell of resolve as he stood in front of his friends and co-workers, their eyes fixed on him, some hopeful, some uncertain. Ryan stepped up beside him, an encouraging grin on his face. We're in this together. Let us make sure our voices are heard tomorrow. The group gathered around, forming a tight circle, their hearts beating in unison like a drum. Together, they brainstormed ideas, building a strategy that pulled on the threads of their individual stories, weaving them into one strong narrative. They shared stories of missed wages, long shifts, and broken promises. Each tale was another brick in the foundation of their cause, each voice fortifying their resolve until the air brimmed with possibility, but as they exchanged stories, Jake's heart sank momentarily. For every voice lifted in courage, a shadow loomed in the back of his mind, a fear that echoed louder than any chant they could muster. What if the managers simply dismissed their demands? What if they retaliated? Would this powerful moment crumble under the weight of a solid wall of indifference? Listen, Jake's voice quivered slightly. We have to remember this isn't just about us. It's about our families, our futures. This is why we can't just go in there shouting slogans. We need to have a clear message that shows why we matter. Heads nodded, but Jake noticed a flicker of doubt in some eyes. We have power if we unite, he added, trying to ignite their spirits. We aren't just a bunch of workers, we are a community. And if we show them that we believe in ourselves, they have no choice but to listen. Ryan nodded in agreement. Exactly. They think they can steamroll over us because we're individuals. But let us show them the strength of a united front. Together, we can do this. Time passed quickly amid impromptu speeches and dynamic visions for their future. Jake felt hope blooming within him. Perhaps, just maybe, this was exactly what they needed, a spark, an awakening. He caught a glimpse of Ryan's determination, that fierce light in his friend's eyes reflecting their shared goals, but then, the air grew thick. The crowd thickened, they seemed to sense an impending storm. A shadow fell across the park, a figure shrouded in authority stepping into view. The tension crackled like static electricity. Who's in charge here? The figure demanded, voice like ice. It was a member of the management team, eyes scanning the group with disdain. The crowd fell silent, hearts thundering, and all the determination they had built felt vulnerable before this unexpected challenge. Jake cleared his throat, heart racing. We are uniting voices for change, he declared, feeling the weight of the moment settle on him. As the figure took a step closer, Jake knew everything they had built tonight was on the line. Would they crumble, or would they stand firm? In that instant, he felt a surge of strength, as if the voices of everyone there were resonating through him. He saw not just fear, but a flicker of defiance in the crowd's eyes. What will happen next? He wondered, facing the looming confrontation that could either make or break them. Would they stand united, or would the shadows of doubt suffocate their hopes? The figure loomed in front of them, his presence like a dark cloud. Jake felt his stomach tighten as he met the cold gaze of the manager, who seemed to thrive on intimidation. Around him, the nervous whispers of the crowd faded, leaving a heavy silence that settled over the park, thick and palpable. Change. The manager scoffed, his voice dripping with derision. You think your little meeting here means anything to the company? You don't even know what you're asking for. Each word was a hit, designed to diminish their resolve, to make them feel small. Jake inhaled deeply, drawing on the strength of the stories they shared. He could almost hear the echo of their voices, the struggles they revealed just moments ago. We are asking for respect, he responded firmly, his voice growing steadier with each word. We're not just workers, we are the backbone of this place, and we deserve to be heard. Ryan stepped forward beside him, his body radiating determination. If you think you can just brush us aside, you're making a huge mistake. Together, we're committed to seeing this through. His words ignited a spark in the crowd, prompting shared glances and slight nods. For a moment, the tension hung in the air, and Jake could feel the collective heartbeat of the group. They were no longer afraid, they had become a force, an unyielding wave of hope. The manager's sneer faltered, revealing the slightest crack in his confidence as the crowd began to murmur in agreement. Respect? What have you done to earn it? He challenged, but now his voice crackled with uncertainty. You sign those contracts, you choose to work here. Our choices lead us here, but that doesn't mean we should accept being treated as less than human. Jake replied, his heart racing with every syllable. It's about fairness. It's about dignity. We're demanding a seat at the table, not just crumbs from your hand. The crowd roared back, voices intertwining in a powerful chorus. Jake felt a surge of adrenaline flush through him, lifting him higher. He watched the manager step back slightly, the pride in his demeanor wilting under the weight of their collective voice, but the manager regained his composure quickly, eyes narrowing. "Don't think you can intimidate me," he said sharply, throwing the crowd a hard stare. "There will be consequences if you keep this up. You think this is just a game?" A cold wave of fear washed over Jake, the weight of the manager's threat adding an edge to the choir of defiance around him. What would that mean? Would they face retaliation? Would they lose their jobs, their livelihoods? Every possible outcome spun through his mind like a whirlwind. But then he glanced at Ryan, who had begun to speak again, every word breathing life into their cause. "We're not afraid of standing up for what's right. We know what's at stake, and we're ready to fight for it." Those simple words felt like the spark in a dry field, igniting a blaze of determination. Jake felt warmth spreading through him, a glow that lifted the weight of fear. They weren't just fighting for themselves anymore, they were fighting for each other. "Are you with us?" Jake shouted, the question echoing with an urgency that swept through the crowd like wildfire. Faces brightened and hearts quickened as their voices harmonized again, this time louder, bolder, ringing through the park with renewed strength, but beneath that rising crescendo, Jake still felt the unease creeping in. They had rallied together, yet the shadow of consequence loomed heavily over them. Would they truly be able to hold on to that fire? "Tomorrow is an important day," he reminded them, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. "We can't let this moment be overshadowed by fear. We must stay strong, together." Just as he thought his heart might steady, another sound sliced through the branches overhead, a laugh, high and mocking. "Change. This is just the beginning of your downfall," came a familiar voice, belonging to one of the other managers. Jake turned to the sneering figure now stepping up to join the first, and it was as if the ground had shifted beneath him. This battle was far from over, and as tension crackled anew in the air, Jake wondered just how deep their commitment would go. Would the world they built tonight hold against such an unexpected challenge? Would they rise up or be crushed by these new threats? The crowd tensed as the new manager stepped forward, his eyes glinting with a mix of amusement and something more sinister. Jake squinted, trying to figure out this fresh threat. This was personal for him. This was about respect and dignity. But what was it for the managers? Power. Control. "Look at you all," the manager continued, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You've gathered to chant and cheer. But where will that get you? The real world isn't moved by noise. It's moved by profit." The laughter that followed felt like a punch to the gut. Jake saw the uncertainty flicker on some faces around him, but he couldn't allow it to spread like a disease. They had come this far, they couldn't back down now. "Your profits are built on our backs," Jake declared, fists clenched. "We're not here to make noise, we're here to be heard." With each word, he pulled the crowd closer, bringing their collective energy to a boil. A ripple of determination surged through them. It was evident in the way they stood a little taller and held their heads a little higher. Ryan stepped in, motivated by the spirit of the moment. "We're not leaving until you treat us like partners in this business. A real partnership values everyone's contribution." His eyes lit up with fervor. "We're not going to disappear quietly. We'll be here tomorrow, and we'll be here the day after that. Our fight is just starting." "Is that what you think?" The manager shot back, face twisted with disbelief. "Every speech you give, every protest you hold, none of it matters. You'll be forgotten, just like yesterday's news." But Jake wouldn't let fear dictate their course. "You underestimate us," he argued, willing the crowd to believe in their power. "We're not going anywhere until we make a stand. Our voices echo far beyond this park." The murmurs of agreement began anew. Hands gripped tightly onto each other. Their joined strength felt like electricity. Yet, the shadow cast by the manager's verbal daggers hovered ever so persistently. "You really think you can change anything?" The manager taunted, his voice lowering to a menacing whisper. Every union, every uprising ends the same way. You think you're so special? Get ready for the harsh reality. With each moment that passed, Jake felt the weight of doubt slipping away. He could see it now, this wasn't just about their jobs, it was about integrity, about all the dreams they held desperately in their hearts. Suddenly, he turned towards the growing crowd, his heart racing. Tomorrow, we'll show them that we're more than just scared workers. We are a community. If we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome. The crowd erupted, their voices a symphony of hope. Jake's pulse soared with the sound. That feeling sliced through his chest, a mixture of fear and excitement. What would come next? As the crowd began dispersing, determined not to let the shadows defeat them, Jake caught Ryan's eye. You think he really meant it? About the consequences? Ryan sighed, glancing back toward the snickering managers. Maybe. But we can't let that stop us. If we're going to change things, we have to be ready for whatever they throw at us. A lump formed in Jake's throat. He wanted to believe, but every step forward was loaded with uncertainty. The park emptied slowly, but excitement mixed with anxiety hung in the air. Tomorrow would be a pivotal moment, a crossroads. Would they rise up even stronger or be crushed? As dusk settled in, Jake could feel the weight of their commitment, the lingering thrill of possibility. Tomorrow, he thought, would determine everything. Could they stand united? Just then, a heavy hand landed on his shoulder. Jake turned to see one of his co-workers, eyes bright with determination. We'll hold our ground, right? With a nod and a deep breath, Jake steeled himself for what lay ahead. They had each other. They just had to believe. And as the shadows began to deepen, one question lingered in his mind: what would it take for him to truly believe they could win? The anxiety of the night didn't settle easily for Jake. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the words of the manager replaying in his mind like an unwelcome echo. Each time he thought he had silenced it with his resolve, those taunting phrases seeped back in. You'll be forgotten, just like yesterday's news. It gnawed at him, feeding the uncertainty. As dawn broke, he jumped out of bed, heart racing. Today was not just another day, it was a turning point. He dressed quickly, fingers fumbling because of the electric anticipation surging through him. He could feel the weight of his community behind him, and it filled him with both hope and fear. Outside, the streets buzzed with the usual energy of daily life, but there was something different today. A tension lingered in the air, a kind of electricity that hinted at potential and danger. Jake set off toward the meeting spot, focusing on the rhythm of his footsteps. One step at a time, he thought, one step toward change. As he arrived, the park was a canvas of determination. Faces he recognized and some he didn't filled the gathering space, all united by a fire that ignited from within. He spotted Ryan, already animatedly addressing a smaller group, hands gesturing enthusiastically. Jake felt a swelling sense of solidarity, their unity was palpable, like a beating heart echoing through the crowd. Everyone! Ryan shouted as Jake approached, eyes bright and alive. Today marks the beginning of something bigger than us. We're not just fighting for our jobs, we're fighting for our dignity. Jake's heart surged with a rush of emotion. They were together, allies in this fight, and their resolve fueled him. The supporters were there from all walks of life. He saw single mothers with hopeful eyes, fathers holding their children, old friends clenching hands as they prepared for what lay ahead. The spirit buzzed amidst the group, creating a tangible feeling of solidarity, yet, doubt crept again, whispering doubts to him. What if they didn't listen? What if nothing changed? Jake clenched his fists, reminding himself of the manager's disdain, his laughter that felt like shattered glass. That can't be us, he thought. We are so much more. An encouraging shout emerged from the crowd, snapping him back to the moment. They were drawing closer together, forming a wall of support. The chants began to form like a wave, rising and falling, fueling their collective spirit. For respect. For dignity. They looked around, seeing the determination mirrored back at them. As the voices reverberated, Jake took his place at the front, heart pounding. He had to speak, to reach into the depths of their memories and aspirations. He lifted his arms, the crowd silent in anticipation. Today, we make our stand. Together, we're not just workers, we are a family. Every voice matters. His voice rolled over the crowd, rising above the noise. They responded, he could see it in their eyes, the spark of belief igniting. Suddenly, he noticed movement from the perimeter. A group of managers approached, smirking, the same faces from the previous evening. Jake's heart tightened, but he couldn't falter now. He would not let fear put out the fire they had built together. Here they come to remind us of their power, he said sharply, addressing the crowd again. But look at us. They see us as a crowd to be managed. Let us show them we're a force to be reckoned with. The energy shifted, transforming into a solid wave of resolve that surged forward. We are here. Jake shouted, and the crowd echoed exactly as he hoped they would. Their response was fierce, he could see steadfastness on every face. And yet, deep down, he felt the question clawing at his mind, would this be enough to face the challenge ahead? As the managers drew nearer, their expressions shifting from amusement to annoyance, Jake wondered, were they prepared for the storm they had awakened? The path ahead was uncertain, but one truth remained: their unity was their strength. The sun had barely begun to rise over the factory grounds when Jake stood in front of his co-workers, the excitement in the air almost palpable. The crowd was a tapestry of determination woven together with heartfelt hopes and shared stories of struggle. Jake's heart thundered in his chest as he surveyed their faces, some apprehensive, some fierce, but all united in their quest for change. He stepped forward, feeling the weight of leadership settle on his shoulders. We've gathered here today, not just to demand respect, but to reclaim our dignity. We are the lifeblood of this company, the hands that build it every day, and we deserve to be heard. Encouragement radiated from the crowd, chants rising as if fueled by an invisible force. For respect. For dignity. Jake locked eyes with Ryan, who was right by his side, a pillar of strength. The fleeting doubts that clung to Jake's mind were silenced in the roar of their voices. Together, they were setting off a chain reaction of empowerment, sending ripples of hope through the crowd. From where Jake stood, he could see the managers approaching, a wall of suits marching in, looking every bit like the authority they wielded. A cold shiver ran down his spine, but the fire inside him flared. He took a deep breath and projected his voice. Show them that we will not back down. The group responded with a fierce surge of noise, a collective heartbeat echoing their resolve. Stand together. Fight together. In that moment, as the managers halted before him, the air crackled with tension. Jake watched their expressions shift, once smug, now a mix of irritation and surprise. This was not the crowd they expected, these were not just employees, this was a movement sparked into existence by shared struggles. Jake stepped closer, feeling every gaze connect with his own. You've dismissed us for too long, he asserted, voice steady. Today, we stand as one, and we demand fair working conditions. We demand respect for our time, our effort, and our lives. The crowd erupted in cheers, fists raised high. Respect. Dignity. The lead manager, the same one who had mocked them in the park, scoffed under his breath but visibly bristled. Jake saw the fear sneaking into his demeanor. This was a pivotal moment, and they had the momentum. Let us be clear, Jake continued. We believe in this place. We want to make it better, not just for ourselves, but for the families we support. We're here to work, not to be walked over. He turned to the crowd, their eyes gleaming with shared conviction. Who stands with us? The roar of agreement surged forward like a tidal wave. We will not be silent. We will not be ignored. As the energy surged, Jake felt a belonging he had long been missing. They were no longer just individual workers, they were a family united by a vision and a fight for something that truly mattered. Then, just as he thought victory was within his grasp, one of the managers stepped forward, voice dripping with arrogance. This is nothing more than a foolish tantrum. You think a few chants will change our minds? If you think you're important, you're mistaken. Jake's heart pounded, but there was no turning back now. Maybe you've underestimated us, but look around. Every person here stands ready for action. Where we once feared consequences, we now embrace them together because we believe in what we are fighting for. The crowd echoed his confidence, fists shaking in agreement. Together. The tension in the air morphed from anxiety into electric resolve. Something significant was shifting. This was more than a fight for better pay, it was about their dignity as human beings, their voices demanding to be acknowledged. In that charged moment, Jake shared glances with Ryan. The brief exchange carried a weight of understanding that spoke volumes. He could feel the shadows of their past disagreements shrinking under the light of this shared purpose. Ultimately, the power was in their numbers. As Jake took one more step forward, a very real and palpable courage washed over him. We are not a nuisance, we are the backbone of this place. And today, you will listen. We deserve to negotiate together. The crowd rumbled with enthusiasm, their unity breaking down barriers that had long held them captive. He seized the moment, rallying his voice to a crescendo. Tomorrow, we march to corporate and present our demands, but we can't do it just as separate voices. We must come together as one, woven by our stories, united in our fight. Cheers erupted. The warmth of hope embraced Jake, a feeling as real as the hard ground beneath his feet. Their strength surged, a growing wave of unity that promised to push through any fear or intimidation that stood against them. The echo of their chorus rang through the air, shaking the very foundations of uncertainty. Together. 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 As Jake witnessed the transformations taking place, his co-workers not just stepping up, but stepping into their own voices, an overwhelming feeling washed over him. This was it. They were on the brink of something life-changing, something that would ripple through their community and beyond. If they stood together, they had the power to ignite a fire that would not just warm their own hearts but would light the way for others. And as they finalized their plans, Jake didn't just feel like a leader, he felt like a brother, a part of something larger than himself, a community ready to take action. In that moment, with uncertainty fading, the laughter of children playing nearby drifted through the air. He thought of his own kids and the life he wanted to build for them. For their future, he would fight. Together, they would not just change the company, they would change the world. As the crowd began to disperse, determined and invigorated, Jake looked to Ryan, who flashed a proud smile. "We did good," Ryan said with a clap on the back. "Yeah," Jake replied with a renewed fire in his spirit. "But this is just the beginning, isn't it?" As they headed home, Jake knew tomorrow was not only about standing up for their rights, it was about claiming their place in the world, not as faceless workers, but as meaningful contributors who mattered. And as dawn approached again, with the promise of hope on the horizon, Jake realized, he was no longer just existing, he was truly living. He was ready for the fight ahead, with his brother and community by his side, united. The real change was just beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now, this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.